Welcome to another edition of the Orange and Brown Talk podcast, a Thursday edition. I am Ashley Bastock here with Mary Kay Cabot, and we are going to start today's podcast with a bit of news, probably the typical kind of news you get around this time of the NFL offseason. Mary Kay, we finally have a training camp schedule, and that includes this year. I think the most notable thing for fans is going to be there are only 8 open practices for fans this year out in Berea that they can attend this year.
You know what? I actually think that that's more than I originally thought it was going to be
Mm.
because the Browns are starting out training camp at the Greenbrier, as we know, and they're going to have 8 practices down there. Those are closed to the public. Then they're going up to Philadelphia and they're training twice against the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's 10 practices right there. And because of that, I certainly didn't think that they were going to be able to squeeze in 8 free and open practices for fans in Berea because last year I believe there were 11, but they were over with pretty early. I mean, by the time
Mm.
they got past the first preseason game, I'd have to look back at it, but I think they were pretty much done by then. But when you look at the current Browns training camp schedule for fans, they've opened up 4 late practices to the Browns in between their third preseason game and their fourth preseason game. So after they're done with that preseason game in Philadelphia on August 17th, they still have 4 opportunities for fans to come out in late August from August 20th to the 24th. And I know that it wasn't going on that late last year. So they're really going out of their way to accommodate their fans. And they're not just saying, oh, hey, we're going to do what's best for us and we're going to rob fans of this opportunity to come out. They really embrace the whole fan piece of it. They love the fact that their fans want to come out, interact with the players, get autographs, enjoy themselves in Berea. It's really fun out there. It's gotten more fun over the past how many every years with all the different things that they do. There's fun interactive things for kids to do. The action is pretty close most of the time. I think there are times when they can do a little bit better with that. I would probably change up things a little bit and have an announcer explaining to people what's going on. Here we are in 7-on-7s. I would make it a little bit more of a gamey type atmosphere out there. Because I think all too often, especially with some of the younger kids, they have no idea what's going on out there. And I think that it could be just a little bit better for them. Um, excuse me. But for the most part, it's a great, fun thing for fans to come out and do.
Yeah, you're so right. It's like the preseason, of course, is going to be longer this time around, but it's like the way that they're spaced out is very different. I was trying to figure out last year if I could see how many open ones there were total, but I know you're right. It was probably in that like 11, 12-ish kind of range. But yeah, it is interesting because it's not only is the Greenbrier, but like last year, their practices, they had joint practices with the Eagles here, and they were still closed to fans. So the difference this year is they're not going to be here; they're doing that in Philly. So that's also the other element of this. And I think, like again, if they weren't in the Hall of Fame game, like they probably wouldn't have the same need to kind of like take the Greenbrier trip and all that, right? But that extra week is helping them squeeze in these handful more open practices, even though it's fewer open practices than Cleveland fans would get in a normal year, I guess.
Yeah, and definitely the Greenbrier trip has so much to do with the fact that it's a longer camp and that they do have that preseason opener, preseason zero, they're calling it, the Hall of Fame game on August 3rd against the Jets. So this is Kevin Stefanski's way of just trying to break it up, change the energy, get these guys out of their regular routine. That would actually feel very long if they had to go from July 22nd all the way through the fourth preseason game in Berea every single day. I do think it would get monotonous. So I think he's trying to break it up, even though some of the players like Joe Bitonio aren't overly thrilled about going down to the Greenbrier. I think in the end, it will have the desired effect, and that is for team bonding and camaraderie.
Yeah, that kind of leads us into what was your kind of